Okay, can you all see my screen?
Yep.
Good. So welcome everyone to this session of the Catalyst School. Today we are going to talk about how to be a veteran community advisor. What are the rules, the guidelines for Fund 6? But before we start with the session itself, with the workshop, I'm just going to talk very quickly about the Catalyst School project. This is a project that was created within Catalyst, of course, because we realized some months ago that we needed a way to onboard new people to the different roles in Catalyst, because we know that Catalyst is not a traditional funding platform or project, and there are some specificities of this system. And we decided to create. Actually, we started with the CA workshop, like in Fund 5, Fund 4 or 5, and then we realized that we could also have workshops for VCAs and for proposers and for basically everyone who wanted to join Catalyst. Then we created the Catalyst School. It was not an official project back then, and we were running these sessions. And then we decided to make a project out of this and submit a couple of proposals in Fund 6. And now the school has more than 10 people working on it in the core team, and more people supporting us as well to provide all this content, for example, in different languages. And the ways that we have to provide this information to the community is through live sessions and workshops like this one. And I think we've done already something like 15 workshops during Fund 6. And we also provide one-to-one and group support. And we do this in many languages, many different languages. We started with 7 languages, and now we are, I think we have 12 or 13 different languages to provide support in. And we want to develop a educational website with interactive content and quizzes and prizes as well for everyone who wants to learn there. And for example, who prefers not to go to live sessions or to talk on one-to-one or group sessions, and also some other related workshops, for example, like open source workshops or the mini proposals workshop that Tivo runs almost every week. And hello, Vladimir. Welcome.
Hi, glad to see you.
Glad to see you too. So this was our schedule for Fund 6. We were running this during Fund 6 as a prototype. We haven't received fund yet, but we were doing this because we thought it was going to be valuable to the community, and we wanted to receive feedback so we can improve for the next funds. And also because we wanted to show that we can deliver this before going to the voting phase in Fund 6. So currently this is an extra session. You can see it was not planned. We only planned for a session last week after town hall and also during this forum session. But then we decided to have this third session on how to be a VCA. And I think this is going to be the last one during Fund 6, and we'll be back in Fund 7. And if you want to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Twitter and join our Telegram and Discord groups. And there are some more links here in this link tree for our proposals, for example, our landing page, and yeah, and our Instagram as well. Yeah, so I think we can start now. We are going to try to have this session within 1 hour, and I can't promise that it's going to be within 1 hour. Maybe it's a little bit, it extends a little bit more than that. But if you have any questions, please just raise your hand and you can unmute yourself and ask. And yeah, so let's go then. So what is a veteran community advisor? Today, a veteran community advisor is a member of the community who is responsible for reviewing the proposal assessments. And by doing this, they classify the assessments as excellent, good, or filtered out. This is the current system. It was not like this until Fund 5. Actually, we didn't have veteran community advisors until Fund 3. Fund 3 was the first fund when the community realized that we needed an extra phase for the quality assurance of the assessments. So first VCAs worked on Fund 3, and they just classified the assessments as acceptable or filtered out. So since then, the system has evolved a bit. We had, for example, the red and yellow card system. Maybe you've read about them in some of the guidelines for funds 4, 5, or even for Fund 6. It was mentioned as well. But now the system is different. We are classifying the VCAs, are classifying the assessments as excellent, good, or filtered out. And in order to be a VCA, the requirement is that you have to have been an eligible CA in a previous fund. And what does it mean? It means that you have to have assessed at least one proposal, and you were not removed from the process. And basically, you are removed if you have more than 20% blanks or 20% of assessments with just the score but without an explanation, or if you had received a red flag during previous funds. For example, if you wrote down an offensive assessment or profanity or something like this. So besides that, if you've been a CA before, you are eligible to be a VCA now in Fund 6. And as they mentioned, we have a little bit more than 200 people who are going to be eligible to be VCAs now in Fund 6. And some numbers from previous funds, I think we had in Fund 3 around 20 VCAs, then in Fund 4 around 20 again, and in Fund 5 around 40 VCAs, if I recall correctly. And I expect that this number increases now because we have many more assessments to review, and we are aiming at least 3 reviews per assessment. So yeah, any questions so far? No. Some facts about VCAs. Yeah, Heinz.
Just wondering, are we tracking somehow if all the veteran community advisors were joining a training? Is that something that could be interesting?
We are not tracking that currently, but I think this is something that's going to change over time. Maybe in the future, we are going to require that the VCAs or even the CAs go through some official training. Because, for example, the Catalyst School, even though it has Catalyst in its name, it's not an official initiative from IOG or IOHK. It's a community made, and it's not part of the official cycle, I would say. It's not totally incorporated in the system. It's just
right, but just to be sure that we're all applying the same rationale in quality assurance.
I would say we cannot be 100% sure today, but we have the guidelines for VCAs. They receive an email with all the instructions, with the link to the reviewing guidelines and all the criteria that they need to use to review the assessments. And for example, if a VCA doesn't follow the guidelines, we can spot this, since VCAs are not anonymous. And I'm not sure what could be done in this case, but at least we can discuss this in the future. For example, in the retrospective week, we are going to have a week just for retrospective at the end of Fund 6, and maybe this is something that we can discuss there. Yeah, so as I said, VCAs are not anonymous, differently from CAs. I think the main reason that the CAs are anonymous is that we don't want to risk CAs being harassed by proposers anyhow, because they are influencing the outcome of the voting phase, and this is currently like this, and it's not necessarily going to be always like this, but it is like this today. But the VCAs are not anonymous. So the way it's done, I think Marek can confirm that the VCAs are going to work on their own Excel sheet, and after that they are going to share it in the CA's Telegram group with their names on the title of this sheet. No.
No. The VCAs will be asked to fill the Google form and to submit their link to their assessment file. So the process will be similar like with the proposers.
Nice. So it's
But all the links will be published after, right? Okay.
Correct. And the links, yeah, it will be published.
Good, thanks, Mark. So yeah, this is something that has changed since Fund 5. That's good. Yeah, and during this review phase, VCA cannot see the reviews done by other VCAs. They can see how many reviews an assessment has already received. If there are other VCAs using the VCA tool that we are going to talk about at the end of this presentation today, but you cannot see if the other VCA, for example, reviewed an assessment and classified it as good, excellent, or filtered out, because we don't want one VCA being influenced by another VCA's opinion or perspective. So we are going to work on your own on this. And you don't need to review all the assessments, of course, because I think we have almost 4,000 assessments provided in Fund 6. And you don't need to review them all. Actually, you probably won't be able to review them all. And also, you cannot review the assessments related to proposals where you submitted a proposal as well. It's almost the same rule as CAs. So if you proposed in a challenge, you cannot be a CA, neither a VCA in this specific challenge. And also you cannot track this, I think, but you should not review your own assessment. It's something that that's not good for the system. You're obviously going to be biased, but it's possible that you end up reviewing your own assessment because you won't remember that it's your own. If you don't know your assessor number, for example, your assessor ID. But I would say that preferably you should not review your own assessment. You should pay attention for that. And the rewards that are distributed to VCAs, they are proportional to the number of reviews made by each of them. So this is different also from the CA's rewarding, because the CA's rewarding is based on quantity and quality, and here it's based on quantity mainly. But since you are not anonymous, it's you should have also high quality and be fair, because others can check your work afterwards. Yeah, any questions here? No. So let's just talk about the rewards already, and then we move to the criteria to how to assess, to review the assessments, actually. So the budget for VCA rewards is 1% of the total fund budget, and currently the budget is $4,125,000, and 1% of this is of $41.25 thousand. And as I said, the rewards are proportional to the number of reviews made by each VCA. And in Fund 6, for example, we have 711 proposals. And actually, the final number is a little bit higher than this number of assessments. It's 3,800 something. And our goal, I would say the ideal number is that we have at least 3 reviews per assessment. So we should have more than 10,000 reviews now in Fund 6. And since we have 200 eligible VCAs, if all of them review assessments, we should expect, I would say, something like 50 reviews per VCA. Then we could reach this number of 10,000 reviews. And about the rewards, since each review receives the same amount of rewards, in this case, for these numbers as an example, each reward would be around $4. It's less than an assessment that the VCAs do, but it's also, it takes less time to review an assessment than it takes to really assess a proposal. As a VCA, you also have to understand the proposal. You cannot just read the assessment, because you need to know if it is related or not to the proposal itself, because the assessment could be really, really good, really clear and well explained, but not at all related to the proposal. So you need to check this as well. You don't need to read all the details of the proposal as you would do if you were working as a CA in this phase. But yeah, you need to read the proposal, at least have an overview of it to properly review the assessment. And this is what review means. You're going to read the assessment, you're going to read the proposal, and then check the guidelines for reviewing assessments and decide if this assessment is excellent, if it's good, or if it should be filtered out from the process. Any questions here?
Thank you. That must have been a lot of hard work.
It's still to be done, this one. I think for Fund 5 we had 5,000 reviews. Yes, so we are doubling the required reviews this time.
I could imagine how difficult that becomes, juggling all of that. So I saw you guys were looking for more people in this space, and I am here checking out what it takes to review some of these. I did submit some, so I see how hard it is probably from both ends. Just more curiosity here.
Yeah. No, it's good to have you here. It's always good to learn, and if you want to be a VCA now or not, if you want to be next fund, you can see how it is now. Probably next fund things are going to be a little bit different, because this system, this mechanism always evolves from fund to fund. So, but anyways, it's good to know about a bit about the history as well, to understand why things are how they are today.
So sorry for my ignorance here, but I would go through Catalyst to sign up to try to become this, or what portal? I'm sorry, I might have missed something.
Yeah, Merrick.
If you want to become a veteran community advisor, you have to be an eligible community advisor at least in one previous fund. So if you got a reward for being community advisor in either fund 2 till fund 5, you got already an email with the invitation to become a veteran community advisor.
Yeah, yes, and I reviewed the email and decided to submit proposals, and now I see I might have some value here giving back in this way too. I appreciate this.
So you haven't been a community advisor before, right?
No, sir. I just got the email because I signed up, I believe, as a kind of an offer. You want to check my email? I mean, I might be able to. I'm race speed on my email's Chris Keller Racing. I'm sure we're still a small community. If you could see if what my interactions might be.
Yeah, sure. I will check it right away. No problem. So, Victor, please continue. I will check it.
I have one question.
Yep.
Due to the fact of what I work at, when I do things, we previously spoke, have you done a bit of a community advisor? Yes. But I basically use a different email and a different person every time I do it, basically to stay anonymous tremendously. And then I trash those accounts afterwards. Are you guys currently tracking basically qualification to do this, or are you going off the honor system in a way of saying that, yes, I did, no, I didn't, just want to know? I'll start the process all over, no big deal. I just want to know from a perspective of quality control, do you have a list of people who qualify, and can you identify them?
Yes, I can. Yes, I
That's
can,
good.
but still, if you're purging your data every single time,
I can tell you who it is, but yeah.
yeah, so basically you will be like new guy every fund, right?
Right, but that's my process. Yes, there's no point going on, But in the future, since you obviously see the screen right now and my name, I don't want to tell you who I was in the past.
Still, but if you're, go, Stephen.
Mhm.
I just wanted to say, yeah, your email address and all of that might have changed, but are you using a different wallet every time?
Yes, actually.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, I just want to point out, there's a lot of different ways that a person can expose their personhood.
I don't want to get doxxed. I work for a DAO, and it's kind of a double life I live, apparently. But I just want to make sure that there is no leak going through this system, and that was my major concern going forward. That because in the anonymous world, that's where I fit. But once you state yourself to stake who you are, your reputation, the rules change.
Yeah.
So, if it gets to that point, I feel comfortable that I do want to go the next step, then I'm sure I will use the name that you see on the screen now. The past practices, though, I just rather admit they don't exist. So, thank you for the advice.
Okay. Please note that also that most of the time we are using the mails that were being used to register on the idea scale. So if you're not updating that email, it will stay the same.
Do you have a timeline that the emails expire from not being used?
Oh, no. If you're using something like 10 minutes mail or so, then you're good to go. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. And Chris, sorry to tell you that, but I don't have your email on the Veteran Community Advisors list. So the email you got was most probably a call to action to become community advisor during Fund 6.
Copy that. I do apologize for my confusion there.
No need to
I'm sorry, sir.
apologize. We are at school. This is time to learn, right?
I get a big fat F. Thank you, guys. I'll do better next week.
No worries. We are all learning here, as Mark said. He just corrected me here as well about the about the Excel sheet, so it's all good. Well, so what does it mean to? What are the criteria to review an assessment? So we have 5 different criteria today, and they are DCA contemplation of their own ability to assess the proposal, DCA scoring against challenge criteria, DCA opinion on the proposal overall, the accountability to the Cardano community, and the positive feedback loops that DCA provides to the proposer to get back in future funds. And we are going to go through each one of them now. But just before that, what is the mechanism to classify an assessment as excellent, good, or filtered out. So if we have only one review, then that's it. There's nothing to calculate. So the VCA that has reviewed that assessment is going to have the final word there. They're going to really classify this assessment, but we are aiming at least 3 reviews per assessment. So how does it work in this case? The first rule is that an assessment to be classified as excellent must receive more than 50% of the excellent classification by the VCAs. And to be filtered out, at least 50%. And if it's not excellent or filtered out by these 2 rules, then it's considered as good. So these rules might be a bit confusing if you are just reading them here, but the next slide is going to show some examples and things are going to be more clear or clearer. Yeah, Mike?
Do your thing, man. If you got examples coming and you got continuation of this, just do your thing.
Yeah, sure. So, for example, in this case here, first example, we've got 2 excellent and 1 good. So the outcome is excellent because more than 50% of the reviews are excellent. In this case, we have 1 excellent and 1 good. So we don't have more than 50% excellent. We have exactly 50%. So it should be higher than 50% to be considered excellent. And we don't have at least 50% of filtered out as well. So in this case, we are in this final mark here, this final bullet, and the assessment is classified as good. If we have 1 excellent and 1 filtered out, we are exactly 50% of each, then it's filtered out. 1 good and 1 filtered out, then it's filtered out as well, the same thing as the last bullet, this last example. If we have 1 of each, which is a kind of weird situation because 1 VCA classified as excellent and another one as filtered out, but this may happen. So in this case, we don't have more than 50% as excellent or at least 50% as filtered out, then the outcome is good. But if we have 1 excellent, 1 good, and 2 filtered out, then the outcome is filtered out because we have, again, exactly 50% of the VCAs classifying this assessment as filtered out. Is it clear now, Michael?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I did have a couple of questions here. So this makes sense. Looks like we're basically just kind of taking like an average across these. You can almost think of it as like a 1, 2, 3 is the way that I'm kind of conceptualizing this. But one question I had, you mentioned the current rollout, the plan is if we have just one review of the reviewer, 1 assessment of the assessment, that'll kind of stand as what the outcome. So I'm wondering, are there plans in place to kind of introduce a threshold similar to the way that we started kind of Fund 4 or Fund 5 when we started to say, hey, let's have a target of at least 3 assessments per proposal, bumping up to 5, the work with the kind of tools team to facilitate some of that. I wonder, are there similar things being talked about for this VCA process, both on the tool side and then just more generally on like targets and kind of community standards like that?
Yeah, I think currently we don't have this threshold as I mentioned, but I think this should be implemented in the future. And the main reason why this changed since last funds, I would say, is that we were struggling to have the minimum number of reviews of assessments. In Fund 5, for example, we had a lot of assessments that were not reviewed even once. So, and now we are aiming at excluding the just okay assessments. So, because we want to improve the quality and have fairer scores for the proposals. So, I think from this perspective, it seems like a step back because we don't have the threshold right now, but we took a step forward in this other direction of having higher quality assessments. And
I will add, sorry, Victor.
No, go on.
I will add also that in the last funds we had a lot of criteria to classify the assessments, and we need to reach the quorum, the threshold for each specific criteria. And this was a problem because a lot of VCA work was wasted, probably in this way. And so I think it will be good for this fund to test out the new criteria, the new simplified criteria, excellent, good, filtered out, and then set a proper threshold for this.
Cool. Yeah, love the iterative approach. Appreciate the explanation there.
Any other questions here? Yeah, Heinz.
Is there any priority to focus first on the flagged assessments?
It's not an official priority, but in previous funds, the recommendation was to start by the flagged assessments by proposer, but you don't have to do that. You can review any assessment that you'd like.
Right.
I would say there is a priority to review not reviewed assessment, because we presented this new schema for community advisor rewarding, and this schema it says every single assessment in the proposal needs to be assessed by the veteran community advisor to be calculated using the new schema. If at least one assessment won't be assessed by the veteran community advisor, all the assessments under that one proposal will be calculated. The rewards will be calculated using the old schema, so lottery system. That's why in Fund 6 we are aiming to have at least one review for each assessment. And now also in Fund 6 we changed the approach to the assessments. Previously we had these triplets, you know, 3 questions, and each of the each of the answer was treated as a review, right? Now we are merging that 3 reviews into one full review or into one assessment, and community advisors, their assessments are treated as a one, and veteran community advisor and proposer, they're not flagging only part of full assessment, they're flagging whole. Yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, that's helpful, Marek. And then one more quick question here. You mentioned that there's a big emphasis this fund on trying to get at least one assessment per review. I'm kind of picking up one of the threads that I'm not sure we hit on. So is there, if I'm a veteran community advisor, how do I go about finding those assessments that don't have any reviews yet? Is this just going to be filtering in the reviewer sheet? I guess what's the best way to approach this work if I'm a VCA?
Victor.
Yeah, each VCA is going to work on their own Excel sheet with all the assessments, but you can load these Excel sheet into the VCA tool and review the assessments through this tool, using this tool. And there is a common backend to all the users, so you can keep track of all the work being done by other VCAs who are also using the same tool. So that's the way that we coordinate the work done by VCAs, but there are some VCAs that prefer to work in the Excel sheet itself and not the VCA tool. And since the tool is not official in the process today, we cannot include them in this backend as well. So we have we are partially distributing the workload using the tool. Any other questions here before we go to the criteria? Nope. So let's go then. Well, this is the first one, the first criteria, that the VCA should review the assessments based on it, and it is the CA scoring against challenge criteria. So we have this table with the first column being the focus, the criteria itself, the second column being what is required for an assessment to be classified as excellent, and the third column, which is required for it to be classified as good. And if it doesn't meet the criteria to be a good assessment, then it should be filtered out. And for this one, the CA scoring against challenge criteria, for example, for the assessment to be considered excellent, the CA has to have provided a defendable justification to support the scoring. And the advisor justification for scoring clearly highlights specific content in the proposal that's being assessed, and their feedback gives confidence to the reader that the entire proposal was considered, and the score plus feedback provided was based on a sound analysis of all information provided. So this is very related to the CA guidelines, and especially for the challenge alignment criteria. If the CA mentioned all the criteria that are presented there in the CA guideline, if they covered, for example, the challenge KPIs, the challenge goals, if the impact of the challenge is being correctly tackled here by the proposal as well, and all the other criteria that are used to evaluate the impact of a proposal, if the CA covers them all, then it should be considered an excellent assessment. And for it to be considered good, the CA has to have made at least a reasonable attempt to justify the score based on the criteria that is presented on the CA guidelines. And it could be a little bit more general and lacking specificity or clarity, but it was a fair attempt and it makes sense, then it's considered good. But if it doesn't make sense at all, if it's not, for example, talking about the impact of the proposal itself regarding the challenge, or it's just a personal opinion or just a general comment or something not related to the proposal itself, then it should not be considered even good. It should be filtered out. I think for the next fund, it would be good because we will have some examples to show here. What is an excellent review based on these criteria, and what is a good one and what's a filtered out one. So we don't have this yet, but we plan to include for the next workshops on the next fund. And also, since this is like a new guideline, we are all still learning about this. We had Chris last week talking about them because he was working with the IOD research team to develop these criteria here, and Stephen Aldrich, who is here as well, and me, we provided some support as well to talk about our own opinion about these criteria. And this is something that is going to evolve over time for sure, based on the community's feedback. Any comments here about CA scoring against challenge criteria? Nope. Let's move on. Second one is the CA opinion of the overall, the proposal overall. So this is basically if the CA is its assessment is really based on what's there, and there's no doubt about his view or his score about the proposal itself, because sometimes the CA can be ambiguous. They can say something and they after that they say almost the opposite. And if the CA is consistent in his score basically regarding the proposal itself, of course it can mention like good things and bad things about the proposal, but they should be able to balance this and not just write something down and don't connect the dots and just give a score at the end. So this is more about the, I would say the reasoning and explaining the score itself. So if the score is well explained, it's excellent. Explained, it should be considered excellent. But if the CA doesn't seem to really understand the project, or it's unsure about its impact or feasibility or auditability, then it should be considered just good. Any questions here? Next one. Yeah, Vladimir.
Hi, Victor. Thanks. It's a great presentation. I just wanted to ask, so if I really notice something here that's different from the previous rounds, is that in the previous rounds, we spent a lot of time trying to classify something as a red card, yet yellow card, based on different criteria or different infractions. Here, we really streamlined the process into trying to identify excellent and good. And what doesn't fall into these categories, it automatically defaults to filtered out. Am I correct?
Yes, you're correct. I think the main idea behind this is that this new system tries to benefit the excellent and good assessments and really filtered out the just okay ones, because these are not usually not so well explained. The rationale is not that good, and it's not constructive for the proposer or for the voters as well, for example. And yes, this is something that it's very different. All those yellow cards that we had before would be filtered out here, and just for example, the acceptable. Yeah, I think it's not there's not a directly relation, but yeah, I would say that all the yellow cards would be filtered out in this case. Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond. I think Vladimir made a good observation here that we're kind of implicitly including what constitutes a filtered out if it doesn't fall into excellent or good. And I wonder, maybe just a question for the group, would there be any value in defining what a filtered out assessment might look like what that criteria is? Again, if it's like implicit here, I think that's fine, but just, question for the group, would there be any benefit or value as a VCA in kind of knowing what constitutes like a filtered out?
Heinz.
Yeah, I assume if it's not fulfilling the before said criteria. So, but for me, does this mean that a assessment can become filtered out even if it's not flagged? It sounds like it.
Yes, it's not a requirement that it has to be flagged to be filtered out. Yeah.
And our assessment as VCA is actually an aggregated view on those different criteria. So we are not voting on the individual viewpoints, but we are just at the end aggregating it to be excellent or good.
Yeah.
All right.
So did I answer your question, Vladimir? Yep, good. So let's move on. Next one is the accountability to the Cardano community. So this one is basically if the CA has clearly assessed the auditability based on all the criteria that we have on the CA guidelines. For example, if he mentioned or he assessed the roadmap, milestones, KPIs, and all the other aspects that are required, for example, budget breakdown as well. how the money is going to be spent, and all these things. So if the CA has really assessed this, really read everything mentioned, and justified his score for the auditability criteria, then it's probably going to be an excellent review or excellent assessment. And if not, if there are some gaps and some things missing, some things that the CA has not mentioned, then the assessment is going to be just good, which is not like just good. It's what Chris was mentioning during the town hall today, because we are classifying it as excellent or good, but good is good as well. I think we are going to have more goods than excellent ones, and this is fine, because we also need quantity, and we need both quantity and quality, and we are always learning here. And for example, after the aggregated file is released from IOG or from Marek, the CAs can check their assessments and how they were classified by the VCAs, and they can improve for the next time. So good is good. Good is not bad. Any questions here? So far we've been talking about if the CAs were covering all the bullets in the CA guideline for each of the criteria. And now this is a little bit more subjective than the other ones. It's the CA contemplation of their own ability to assess a proposal. And we've discussed this a lot last week, because some people were mentioning, for example, do I need to write that I am a developer, that I have this and that background, and that's why I'm assessing this proposal or not? And maybe this is something that's not totally clear here, but what the VCA should do in this case is to try to identify if the CA is assessing the proposal based on something that it's a field that he has a knowledge about, or is just something that's outside his knowledge field, and he's just he doesn't really have the tech background, for example, or the academic background required to assess the proposal. So he or she doesn't make like really deep comments about it, but it has assessed based on the guidelines itself, because the guidelines are generic. They work for every proposal, but in some specific case, it makes sense to talk more than what's just there. So if the VCA realizes that the CA has more knowledge about the field, and he has background, and he mentions specific points of this kind of proposal, for example, this is something that is going to be different in case of an excellent or a good assessment. And this is, as I said, this is just one of the 5 criteria. So, and I think this is the most subjective one, maybe the most difficult to review as well. So yeah, in this case, the excellent assessment is when the VCA realizes that the CA really has a lot of knowledge or a lot of basis regarding this specific industry or specific topic, and he's using this background information, background knowledge to assess the proposal, the feasibility, the impact, or the auditability. And if the CA doesn't have this background, it shouldn't be filtered out, but it should be classified as good. In this case, in thinking about this criteria only, not about all the other criteria, because also, as Chris mentioned, this is not like a ticking boxes exercise. You need to check, need to review the assessment, thinking about all the 3 different criteria: impact, feasibility, and auditability, and think about all these 5 criteria to review the assessments as well. So any questions here? Yeah.
I got a question. If you So you mentioned like certain people, CVAs might have different tasks in this, or obviously experience in different parts. So if someone was to go through and kind of identify which person would give a better insight into each type of review, like a deeper dig into this, just as just an idea.
You mean if you see two different assessments, for example, if you compare them and see that one has more bases than the other one, or just looking at a single one?
So you want more than one assessment, basically on each. You want it up to 3, right? At least, or more reviews, right?
Yeah, we aim at 5 assessments per proposal and 3 reviews per assessment. Yeah.
So were certain people that were way more talented still flagging the junk ones out? Maybe their time would be better spent checking out the excellent ones.
Wait, what? Can you repeat the question?
I'm just curious if it would save some of you guys time by filtering out those junk ones before they get to you.
You mean the proposals or the assessments?
Well, the proposals, the assessments, I think would all be good.
Not necessarily.
Well, it depends on the assessor, obviously, doing the assessing. But that's why I think, having more than one, or even flagging it for us, hey, maybe you should look at the tech or what they're talking about economically in this proposal, or what does this make sense to you too? Just wondering if assessments, filling into the criteria, like obviously it is a subjective points at some of this, but I don't know. I just thought filtering in a certain, like almost saying, hey, this proposal needs more review in a specific type, and then somebody who's more versed in that can give that specific type of feedback. Just to help the proposals kind of consolidate if they're having problems or if they can do better. Like maybe the good ones need that type of help to get to excellent. Just questions I have. I might be in left field. I'm so sorry if I'm taking you on a tangent.
No, don't worry. But I think you are confusing the good and excellent, because these are not given to proposals themselves. These are classifications to the assessments. We are not like classifying the proposals as good or excellent. This is what the CAs do in the previous phase that ended last week. And they give the score from 1 to 5 to each of the criteria. So now the VCAs, they are reviewing these assessments that the CAs provided, and they're classifying the assessments as good or excellent or filtered out.
So there is no way.
I completely understand. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys. Keep going. It was just a question in my mind. I'm so sorry.
No, don't worry.
Don't worry.
I think Heinz, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, it was kind of, maybe that comes in the next slide, but all these 3 aspects of a proposal that a community advisor was rating, and these viewpoints we are now discussing, at the end, I'm asking that again because I want to be sure. At the end, I'm aggregating this as 1 excellent, 1 good. So, and there is no formal way to kind of make a criteria list. This is my own job as veteran community advisor to kind of, if I want to click all these different criteria and make a weight average or something if I want, or I just use my stomach feeling and aggregate it at the end to one result. Is that right?
Yes. It's you can have your own criteria. For example, if you review the assessment based on these 5 different focus areas, for example, and all of them are excellent, then the assessment is excellent. But if 2 are good, for example, there's no rule that it should be excellent or good. It's based on your own in your own decision. Yeah.
But I could as well decide 3 of them, 4 of them were excellent, 1 of them was good, it's still excellent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I think it will be good to, I don't know, like create some balance between all the assessments. I think after some reading, you will have probably a better overview of the overall quality, and then adjust this criteria to select excellent, good, or filtered out.
That's a very good point, because I had the same experience as community advisor. I know it was very important to focus on the ones that have no assessment, but it made for me a big difference to stay within a challenge setting and make them all, because I revised my rating a couple of times once I was through the complete challenge setting and could relatively compare so it's a bit problematic to focus in this silo mode. I fully understand that we need to do it to get the number of assessments, but that could as well be the same here, to go through a couple of VCA checks and then kind of get a more non-biased overall view.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, I would add that the approach you described about assessing a whole challenge, it will probably help as a VCA, because you have a good understanding of the whole challenge, or all the proposals in a challenge. And I think probably the best advice is to start your VCA work on a proposal that you already reviewed, because you have more awareness, more knowledge about this specific proposal. And even if you will probably see different opinion about the same proposal, but you still have a better overview probably.
Yeah, and something that is good that I do every fund as well is I try to identify my own CAID. I open this Excel sheet, and because I save my own assessments in a different document, so I search for my own assessment and I identify my ID, and just to skip to so I don't review my own assessments. I think it's a good practice.
Victor, does that also let you see the assessments of your assessments after the fact? Is that a way that you can look at feedback on your assessments?
Yes. It's not like a feedback. There's no rationale. The VC is not going to write something now. They're just going to classify the assessment, but you can check them in the aggregated file at the end of the QA stage.
Cool. And I guess maybe a related question, are there any plans to present aggregated data like that back to CAs, or would that be just kind of some action you take on your own? If you want to see that feedback, you can get back in the document, or is that going to be shared in like an aggregated way? So CAs can kind of take that feedback and learn from it.
Yeah, Marek.
How did you know? The aggregated file, or at least the aggregated valid assessment tab, will be shared publicly, but maybe we'll publish whole document. There are some unnecessary informations like excluded assessments, because there is like a ton of blank assessments, but I don't see any reason why shouldn't we publish whole aggregated document, because people can find there also the links to the veteran community advisor files. So, and that should be published as well. So yeah, and we will publish it on the Telegram as previously.
Yeah. So moving to the last criteria as focus area, which is positive feedback loops. And this is a way to review the assessment based on the feedback that the CA provided to the proposer, so they can improve their text or, for example, their KPIs or their roadmap, something that is within the proposal, and how to make it better for the next fund if it doesn't get funded in the current one. And yeah, for example, here in Excellent, actionable coaching points are provided to guide the proposer about what is and isn't strong about the proposal, and or what could be improved to become a more compelling proposal in the future. So if the VCA, the CA does this, then it's going to be excellent assessment based on this focus area. And if the CA provided feedback about the strengths and weaknesses in the proposal, however, this feedback is not that clear, it lacks clarity or some actionable coaching points, then it's not so useful to the proposer. So then it's just good. And if the CA doesn't mention anything on how to improve the proposal, then based on these criteria, the assessment should be filtered out. But yeah, as I mentioned, the decision to categorize as excellent, good, or filter out is going to be based on all of the 5 different focus areas. And more details can be seen here in this community advisors assessment guide. I'm going to open this very quickly. So here you can check, you've been CAs last week, so I think you have all of these in mind already, but you can always double check here the same guide, the same focus areas and the requirements for assessment to be excellent or good, as we've just discussed. And the impact, the criteria, each of them impact feasibility and auditability, and what the CA should focus on when assessing the proposal. So maybe it's good to review this document before starting reviewing the assessments, because it's easier if you already have all of these in mind when you start reviewing the assessments. It's going to be a little bit more difficult at the beginning, but after 1 or 2 days, it's getting easier and easier, and you can increase your productivity on reviewing assessments. And yeah, I think this is the end of the criteria. And here we have some general resources, the 2 community landing pages, the guidelines for being a CA, guidelines for being a VCA, and also the link to the VCA tool that we were talking about. And maybe Lucio can present the tool now. Okay.
Yes, okay.
Okay, stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Okay. Here is the link for the VCA tool. Basically, it's a tool that can be used in parallel to the standard process. So instead of using the Google Sheet that you will receive tomorrow in the email for VCA, you can use this tool. And as we mentioned before, this can be useful to keep track of the work of each VCA, and you will have a better interface. And also you can filter the assessments based on the other VCA reviews. So we can reach the goal to review all the assessments easily. Okay, you can't test it now because you don't have a link, but I will show you just the tool with an example file. So in the first page, you have some information about starting the tool, and also some link to the various resources that you can use. And clicking on Start Process, you will see the main, the first view of the tool. So basically, you have just to fill this data. And then you can drag and drop the CSV file obtained by the Google Sheet that you will receive tomorrow. After you have dropped the file, you can see here the number of assessments that will be loaded. And you can click this button here, Import Data, to import actually all the assessments in the tool. Here is the list. And there are basically all the 4,000 assessments. And here on the top, there is a button, Choose Filter, to filter the assessments. So basically, you have some criteria to focus on specific type of assessments, like the ones flagged by proposers, specific proposal, the average rating, a specific assessor, or the length of the assessments combined by the 3 criteria. You also have here these 4 buttons. The last one, All, which is the default selected to just show all the assessments. This one, the third one, No Reviews, filter the assessments that are not already reviewed by other VCAs. The second one shows the low reviewed. So basically when an assessment has less than 4 reviews from other VCAs. And the first one is just to randomize all the assessments. So if you don't want to focus on something specifically, you can use this. So basically, you are in the list. You can click open or just hit next here, and you will see the whole assessment made by a community advisor. On the top, you have some information about the proposal. So basically, the title and the link to idea scale, the challenge which is part of, the number of reviews already made by the other veteran community advisor, the assessor name, the assessor ID, and then the 3 criteria with the rating and the rationale of the assessment for each criteria. Here at the bottom, we have a new thing for this fund, because we can see the if a proposer has flagged an assessment, we can see their rationale. So basically, we have more information to evaluate the specific assessment. And then at the bottom, you have 3 buttons to make your choice. So you can click excellent, for example, or good or not valid. And your choice is stored on your browser. So basically, in this way, you have completed your reviews for these specific assessments. As you see there, as you see here, the number of VCA's reviews has increased, because now is 5. And then you can hit next and see the next assessment based on the criteria you selected before. And here it is, the basic mechanism of the tool. It's just a repetitive task, but at the same time, it's really important to read everything, read the proposal, read each rationale for each criteria, read if there is if it is present the rationale by the proposer, and just in the end make your choice. Not valid, it's filtered out. Good point. I will change it for tomorrow. So, and okay, if you want to deselect your choices because you're not sure anymore, there is here the last button, deselect, that will basically cancel your previous choice. Okay, when you have finished reviewing the assessments, and in the list you can also see the assessments that you already reviewed, you have to click here on the top right and click Export CSV. Basically, in this way, you can export your work, and you will share this file with the Google form that you will receive in the email tomorrow. And one important thing is all your work is stored in the browser. So if you are using some privacy browser that clear the cache at every launch, you will lose your work. But if you export your CSV, you can re-import it later. So basically, if now I clear my local database and re-import this file that I just exported, I can see my old the reviews that I already made. So this is a way to don't lose the work that you already done if you're using some privacy browser. And I don't know if I missed something, or if you have any question. All good.
Yeah, I think Vladimir wants to say something.
Okay, Vladimir, yes.
Yes, I'd like to wait. Can you wait just a sec?
You're muted.
Second.
Okay.
Now, yes. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'd like to point out one thing for somebody who's a new VCA, because I've been in this for a couple of rounds or maybe 3 rounds, and it seems overwhelming, especially as this round also has, let's say, even more detailed instructions. So it's good also to step back a little bit. I just want to give some personal advice as these filters that the VCA tool has. Even Google Sheets has them if you don't want to use the VCA tool, but the VCA tool has them really well presented. I didn't use the VCA tool until now, but I think I will, because this is really nice. And these filters really enable you to dig down to the very low quality, short, mindless assessments, which are always present in every fund, and to the high quality ones also. But if you search for very long assessments, but even when you search for very long assessments, you can find very poor quality assessments, because you can see a lot of copy paste material from the proposal, and then you can discard it. So why I'm taking this opportunity is I wanted to point out that it's a different game being a VCA than a CEA, and there are some shortcuts that you can use to help the community by really targeting poor quality assessment and finding those really good gems that really help Catalyst. And these tools like searching for length or going through all CE assessments for one proposal, because if you know one proposal, then you can go through, if there are 10 assessments for it, you can speed up your process by not just going random from one to another. So people can step in their stride and do more just by familiarizing themselves with these abilities in the Google Sheet or the CA tool. That's all. And I'd also invite Victor and other VCAs from previous rounds to give some of their own personal tips of how they manage, because there are some really useful, let's say, hacks that you can do to maximize your effort and minimize the time that you waste. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir. Really good insights. And I will add my little tip it's a really a task, a really hard task, because you have to read a lot of things. So basically, if you are tired, you can focus on some low-hanging fruits, like you said. Basically, you can see a lot of assessments that are totally ambiguous or generic. I don't know, we always joke about the classic assessment that this proposal addresses the challenge. It is something that if you are tired, you can just check in an easy way without reading too much, probably.
Yes, and this is a very good point, Vladimir, because, for example, there might be some VCAs that prefer to review good quality assessments and then low quality assessments. For example, I know that some CAs, they prefer to assess proposals that are not good because they can help them more, saying how they could be better, what could be included in the proposal itself. And it's not exactly the same thing, but there might be different styles of VCAs, as you mentioned, some that look for low quality assessments and some that look for high quality assessments. But something that I would advise is to the VCAs to focus on one challenge at a time and maybe one proposal at a time as well. Because, for example, if you choose one proposal that has 15 assessments, then you can read the whole proposal and then review all these 15 assessments, for example. And you don't have to, like, every time that you review a new assessment, you have to read again a new proposal. And yeah, I think this is the main thing. Currently, the tool, the VCA tool, doesn't have a filter for you to choose based on the challenge itself. Maybe I think this is something that we will implement in future funds. But you can open a challenge in IDScale, for example, and pick the name of the proposal, because you can filter by name, and then you choose one proposal and review the assessments of that specific proposal, and then you do this for other proposals in the same challenge. So you have the same mindset, and you have all the criteria and everything that's important to review these assessments in a single challenge. Yeah, Vladimir.
Thanks, Lucio and Victor. That's really, I think, useful information. I also remembered one more piece of information that comes inside a VCA sheet for every VCA, and that's the similarity analysis that we receive, which is really useful. And it's good if somebody's watching this also on YouTube later, that the similarity analysis does, let's say, a comparison among all the proposals and among the CAs themselves who use similar language or similar phrases, and matches them by percentage, and draws your attention to what are possibly or likely very just blatant copies, or maybe not, of assessment. So that's another way of focusing your attention to CAs who may be trying or may not be trying to abuse the system, either by copy pasting unvalid assessments or by duplicating identities, where you have one CA number 89 and CA 139 who have identical assessments across the same proposals, which should probably lead to filtering out, if that is your review of that. Thank you.
Yes, I think it will be really useful to integrate this information within the tool for the future funds. Actually, it is not possible, but I will prepare this similarity Google Sheet like in the last funds. So this information will be available. It will be a bit difficult because this time we will have all the assessments merged together, basically all the triplet. So I think it will be less effective than the other funds to spot the copy paste, but it is always something that we can use.
Yep, and I think another strategy that the VCA can use is that he can follow a single CA. If, for example, he reads the assessment of a CA, and if it's low quality, he can filter by the CA and check the other ones. But I would just advise trying not to be too biased, because the same CA can give a good assessment and then an excellent and then a filtered out. But it's a way to be to increase your productivity as well, I would say. Yeah, and so let me just share my screen. I just have one more slide to go, which is, yeah, this one, just some other links to some projects within Catalyst, the main Discord server, main Telegram group, the community advisors Telegram group, the school Discord, WADA Discord. We have a partnership with WADA as well, the Swarm Session Discord, Gimbal Labs, and Eastern Hemisphere. And if you know about these projects already, but you are not in their platforms, you can join them. And if you are not, well, you know the Catalyst School already. WADA is a project that focuses on Africa, developers and platforms and communities. The Swarm is a community-made event group, I would say. There are the Swarm sessions every Saturday at 17 UTC. The after town halls currently are organized by the Swarm group as well, and also the Idea Fest, where the proposers present their ideas to voters. And Gimbal Labs is a place where you can learn how to develop or how to code within the blockchain, within the Cardano system, Cardano platforms, actually. And the Eastern Hemisphere Town Hall, which was mentioned during today's Town Hall, it's not exactly the same event, but it's a similar event that occurs now every Saturday at, I think it's 9 UTC. I'm not sure, but I think it's something like this. And that's it. What's next? What's next? You choose. There are a lot of possibilities here, but I think the answer here, what's next, is starting reviewing assessments tomorrow for all of us. And thanks everyone for being here. It's good because all of us, we always learn from these kind of workshops and discussions. We always have new questions, new insights, and thanks for this as well, because we are going to improve this presentation, these slides, and these workshops, and maybe add extra things for the next funds. And that's it, guys. Thanks.
And thank you, Victor.
Yeah, thanks, Victor.
It
Thanks,
was very
everyone.
helpful.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Keep up the good work, guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.